Hey everyone, so I think this video is long overdue because I have not done a formal Q&A here on my channel, and you guys always have a lot of questions, whether it's in the comments, it's in my DMs, and so I decided to put a call out this past week on social media asking for your burning questions. Like, what did you want to know about my business and my personal life? Because I figured, you know what? I'm kind of under the weather. I'm just getting over a cold. So now is a good time to really answer those questions. So today is going to be very informal. I have like a whole list on my phone of stuff to talk about with you. So let's jump right into it. So for this video, I'm going to get a little bit more cozy than normal. And yes, I have on sweatpants today. Usually you don't see my bottom half, but today we're just going for comfort because I'm getting over being sick and we have a lot to cover. So the very first question was about vintage booths, and I have two of those. I got my first one April 2024, and then I got my second one in July. In terms of how much inventory I would recommend, when I was considering getting a booth, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and the one thing that I thought was really important that I got from a lot of those videos is that you needed to have enough inventory in your booth to actually, make you profitable. So that's one thing that happens is people don't have enough stuff in their booth that if you added up everything and let's say every single thing sold in a month, you may not even make enough to cover your rent and cover the cost of goods. And so that was the biggest thing that I learned is that you need to make sure you have enough stuff in order to actually make money. And that's one thing that people don't necessarily go through, that exercise in their mind. Like, okay, if I added everything up in my booth, would I even be successful? And so that's one thing to keep in mind in terms of calculating how much inventory you need. Now, you don't want to overload your booth to where it's unshoppable, but you definitely want to have enough inventory to make money. So that's like my tip on inventory, and I've felt that was very valuable, and I've definitely tried to make sure my booths are stocked as much as I can. And then in terms of regrets, lessons learned, the biggest thing that I struggled with last year was I did not separate my online inventory from my booth inventory, and so I would have stuff sell in my booth and sell online at like the same time, and that resulted in a lot of disappointment for the online buyers. And so I have since pretty much separated my inventory. Oh, and then one more thing, you absolutely have to go in and physically move your stuff around your booth all the time. Anytime I go in and take stuff and move it from shelf to shelf, circulate it around, things sell better. And so it's not a set it and forget it business. I think a lot of people think, oh, they're gonna set it in their booth space and then leave it and wait for it to sell. No, you really have to circulate inventory around. And if you have more than one booth in malls, you need to circulate inventory between booths. Take stuff out, put stuff in, and that's very important. So those are kind of my vintage booth tips. So you guys have a lot of questions about how much time I'm spending on my business, because when you watch my video where I talk about how much I made as a vintage reseller and YouTuber, one thing that you wish I would have covered is basically how much time went into making that money. And it's a staggering amount of time. So I am working 7 days a week. And part of the reason is because I am the primary parent in our relationship. My husband has a traditional 9-to-5 job that he has to literally be physically at his desk. I'm the person that has the most flexible career. And my son is 6, he's in school, and this cold and flu season is insane. And so I'm basically having to fit in work wherever I can based on if he's home or not, which is crazy. And then one thing about being a vintage reseller, so much of the sourcing that you need to do happens on the weekends. That's when the estate sales are. That's when the markets are. That's when the big sourcing events are. If you don't want to participate in that, then that's going to impact your business. And so that's why on the weekends, I'm doing stuff for my business. And then also because of YouTube, the best days to publish videos is the weekend. And so as soon as I publish a video that requires work on the weekends, because I usually am doing like a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday type of publishing schedule. So I am working a lot and all the time. Now I know it sounds like I'm a workaholic, and you know what? Work brings me a lot of joy because, if I wasn't working, I'd probably be watching TV or something. And so I just choose to just like keep growing my business and stuff. But yeah, in terms of how many hours do I devote to reselling? A staggering amount. I really can't even tell you how much because it feels like all the time. With the YouTube portion of my business, there's a lot that goes into those videos. I have to film, which usually takes me anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on the video. It can take me 2.5 hours to edit the video, and then all the prep work that goes into preparing it for upload, which is usually about an hour, creating the thumbnail, making sure I have everything that I need in terms of what goes in the description. And then the other piece of that is the Etsy side of it. So if I'm doing a haul video, everything that I'm gonna be showing you in that video needs to go up on Etsy. And so that can take me hours and hours of photography and listing prior to even getting that video out. So it is a lot of time. Now, I have scaled back my marketing consultancy quite a bit in order to be able to grow this piece of my life, the YouTube reselling. And so I'm not working as a marketing consultant as much as I used to. I'm at a point now where I can scale that back because of what I'm making in this new endeavor that I'm building is able to make up for that. I'm not completely to the point where I want to cut out being a marketing consultant. Part of it is because, it's been such a big part of my identity, and it makes me a lot more money than this thing that I'm growing right now. And so to give that up completely, it's like, there goes that safety net. But anyways, in terms of how many hours and stuff I'm working, it is a 24/7 thing. Just know across the board, when you own your own business and work for yourself, especially if you shift from a 9 to 5 to, self-employment, you are generally working a lot more. The benefit to being self-employed is you're your own boss, and you have a lot more flexibility than being maybe tethered to a job. So that kind of makes working more worthwhile. But I want to let people know that, because when you start to work for yourself, if you've never done that before, and I've worked for myself for a long time, you do end up working more than you do at a corporate job, typically, especially if you're growing some sort of entrepreneurial business like I'm doing. Okay, so what is my most profitable item that I sell? So the item that I sell that's the most profitable are the vintage card catalogs. They can usually sell for well over $400. Now, they are an expensive thing to ship, but I can make $300 on one of those. And to me, that's a really great flip. And so that's something that I'm always looking out for, because they are hard to find now, because they're vintage and even in some cases antique, and they always have a buyer. Okay, so next question is, what else is selling well for me? Right now, I'm really focused on finding small to medium-sized pieces of art. Those sell really, really quickly for me. And then anything brass. Brass is still king, as much as other metals are, becoming more popular, especially I've seen a lot more silver, especially by the younger generations. Brass is still the one thing I'm looking for. A person also asked, what is something in your area that you used to find a lot that you don't really find anymore? Brass, definitely. If I can find anything brass out in the wild, it's a happy day, because the amount that is showing up in thrift stores and at estate sales and stuff, it just goes really quickly, because everyone, including the non-resellers, are looking for it. And so that is something that I still am selling a lot of. But I promise I'm gonna film one of those, my best sellers video coming up really soon. It's on my agenda, but definitely small to medium pieces of art and brass still all day long. So here's kind of a fun one. Someone asked, how did I come up with my business name all put together? So more than a decade ago, when lifestyle blogging became really popular, I actually had a lifestyle and craft blog, a DIY decorating blog. And so I called it All Put Together. So this name I have had for more than a decade. So it has been with me for a while. I've entertained the idea of changing it, but people really love the name. And so I feel like, after more than a decade of using it, I probably should just keep using it. And so the background in it is my mom growing up, she was very much fashion forward and she loved to decorate. And so those two things were very important to her. And so she always admired people that were all put together, people that were dialed in with their clothes and dialed in with their home. And so I kept hearing that phrase all the time, they're all put together. And so that's how that came to be. So back to some inventory questions. So you guys asked, what do I do when something doesn't sell? First and foremost, I try to rotate it through my booth or from my shop to my booth. I did this recently with some really old Etsy inventory that had been sitting for years. And I decided to take it completely offline, put it in my vintage booth, and it ended up selling. So highly recommend, rotating inventory through. One of you guys suggested in the comments a while back that you will redline your tags, and by redlining and putting a new price versus like maybe retagging, really signal to the buyer that they were getting a good deal. And that usually would move the merchandise. So I've tried that. My mom, who shares one of my vintage booths with me, she will do that. My mom, bless her, she is so impatient. As soon as something doesn't sell within like a week of putting it in the booth, she wants to redline it and get it the F out of there. It's hysterical. She has no patience when it comes to letting things sit. And so she does a little bit more redlining than me. But I will say, like, even marking it down like a few bucks, but that red line looks so dramatic, it really helps move products. So when we go and look at the tags at that vintage mall that we're in and we look at what sold, like there's a lot of those tags. It's amazing how that red line really works. So thank you. I can't remember who suggested that, but thank you, because that was a really, really good tip. And the other thing I'll do is I'll donate some stuff back to the thrift store, things that I know are just not gonna sell, or they're too damaged, or something I just do not wanna deal with. So sometimes I will do that. And then I also will offer up inventory to other resellers, and that's something that you can do because we all sell, you know, different things. And sometimes something that is unsellable to one person is totally sellable to another person. This happens all the time because you might have like the audience and the customer base that would want it. So the next question is about how do I know if something is vintage? It's hard because it's something that you just have to learn by like doing, researching, following people that are resellers that you feel confident that they know their stuff. And that will help you then know, because, you know, they said that it's vintage, you trust their judgment, and then therefore, you know, you can then make that assumption that it's also vintage. And so it's really just a lot of learning, studying, and following people. That's what I did. Before I became a reseller, I watched a lot of YouTubers. I followed a ton of people on Instagram that were resellers. I just learned a lot. Basically stalking people's businesses and learning from that. So that's what I would recommend that you do. Okay, so back to some Etsy shop questions. What is the ideal number of listings in your Etsy shop, and how often do you post new things? So the more listings you have, the more likely you are to sell something. When people message me and they say, you know, I'm not getting any traction on Etsy, and I go to their Etsy shop, almost in every instance, they do not have very many listings. You really need to think of your Etsy shop as you would like a brick and mortar. Like, you would never open a store with 12 items in it. You know, you would never go to a market with 6 things. The more you have, the more likely you are to show up in search results. And especially if you have a variety of things, the more likely you are to show up in search results. So it's not only the people coming because they searched XYZ and then that item showed up for them and they click on it. If someone likes that piece that you have listed, they may go to your shop and then they may see everything else. So you just need a lot more things. When you're starting out, I think you have to have more than 30 pieces. And as you grow, I think the minimum should be 100, in my opinion, in order to have a really strong sell-through rate. When you're starting out and you may not have any reviews or sales, you know, you want to make sure that the customer feels confident that you're a person who's going to fulfill on what they purchased. Now, some people will just buy no matter what. They want the thing and they'll just like hope you are responsible enough to ship it out. But some people, they might be like, ooh, do I take a chance on a new shop? And so having more items signals to the potential buyer that you're taking this seriously and that you are trying to create a business, and therefore you're likely to ship out what they purchased. So I got a lot of questions about tracking my expenses, basically all the admin stuff that goes into being a vintage reseller. And yes, I am tracking my expenses. I log my receipts. I keep track of my mileage. I keep track of any business expenses and fees, like what I pay for my LLC and my business license, things like that. Like, I keep track of those things because they're very important when it comes to for tax season in terms of what you're allowed to write off for your business. So I can't really advise you on the best system for keeping track of all this stuff. I use spreadsheets. I'm old school. I even will keep track of things that I pay cash for. Is if I go to a cash only type of market, I usually, when I'm done, I will write down everything that I purchased and how much I spent in cash. And so I do keep track of that. So not just like stuff I pay with a credit card, I do keep track of cash, you know, expenses as well. And so I just think it's good practice. Now, am I one of those people that comes home from the thrift store and logs my mileage and my receipts instantly? No, I'm not that. I usually batch it. Sometimes it will take me like a couple months and then I'll do it all at once. So I'm not that organized, but I am a person that tries to make sure that I run and keep really tight books just because it's important to do that as a business owner. So when you're starting out, I would definitely recommend like putting some systems in place and at least having a spreadsheet where you're tracking things. And even if you don't want to necessarily invest in software, obviously investing in software is the easiest way to keep track of things. It will be easier for you when it comes to tax season because running reports and things, it's just, it's all built in. That's what they're for. But for me, spreadsheets is just what I've been using. So if you're using spreadsheets, that's totally fine. But definitely consult, obviously, a tax professional and a bookkeeper because they'll be able to advise you really on the best way to do things. That's why I've never really filmed a video about how I do the admin side of my business because I can't be 100% sure I'm doing it perfectly. I think a person only knows if they are if they get audited and they're fine. But I'm trying to do things on the up and up and hold a certain standard. Treat your business like a business. And if this was like your 9-to-5 job, your employer would obviously expect you to keep good records of things. And so you as a business owner should also keep good records of things. I also got a lot of questions about inventory, like how am I keeping track of my inventory? Not like physically in like where am I storing it, but more so like, do I have a spreadsheet of all my inventory? And in the very beginning of my business, I would break out every single item and how much I spent. And I soon realized that level of like bookkeeping and analysis was not something that I wanted to do because it just is so incredibly time consuming to go item by item when it sells. And frankly, I didn't feel like the information that I would glean from that warranted all the time spent doing that extra like bookkeeping and admin work. I generally have a good idea of how much I'm spending on my inventory. And so I don't feel like I need to know exactly how much I'm making from each thing because I have a general idea of how much I'm making overall when I'm selling. Okay, we're gonna rapid fire some of these next ones. So the next one is, what country would you like to go thrifting in next? Because you guys know I love international sourcing trips. I went to Belgium and Amsterdam in the fall of last year and it was so fun. I would love to do some sourcing in Norway. I watched my friend Laura's video and the amount of like mid-century type of stuff that was in the thrift stores there was crazy. You just don't get a lot of that in the States. Like it's few and far between. But obviously when you go to the countries where that stuff is from, you have more of that to find. And so I thought, ooh, that would be really, really exciting to go thrifting there. Oh, and before I probably should mention that I am actually going to do another sourcing trip this year. So I'll be going to the UK for a few weeks. My husband is from the UK. And so we usually try to go back for like an extended stay. And we want to go this coming summer. And so I'll be thrifting and shopping my way through the UK, and then I'll probably go maybe one more place because if you're in Europe, flying to other places in Europe is so insanely cheap. And so I was thinking about maybe going back to France to do a little bit of sourcing. But while I'm in the UK, I would love to host a reseller meetup for all of my UK viewers. So anyone who'd be interested in maybe hanging out and shopping together. So TBD on that. We don't even know officially our dates, but when I do, and if I am able to fit it in a reselling meetup, I will let you guys know. Okay, so back to some sourcing questions. So one person asked, what is the hardest category for me to pass up? And that is anything miniature. I love miniature anything. It just is something that my heart wants. I want to buy it all the time, but miniature stuff does not pay the bills. It is not worth the hassle to sell because miniature stuff in a booth setting, if it's not locked up, usually goes in someone's pocket. And then miniature stuff to sell online is not worth all of the effort to clean, photograph, list, and then ship out something that's gonna make you a couple bucks. I try really hard not to pick up miniature anything, things that are just too small and not worth my time, but it is so hard because I love mini things so much. The bag walls where all the miniatures are like bundled together, I really have to be like la 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 and go buy those walls with like blinders on because otherwise I'm like sucked in looking at them and want to bring everything home. So miniatures are something that are so hard for me to pass up. Another person asked, would I ever consider having someone source for me? I'm not at a point where I could employ someone to do it, and I don't know if it ever would make sense to pay someone to actually do it a lot for me. The cost of goods these days has gone up a lot. If you've gone to a thrift store recently, you can tell the prices are going up. And so it doesn't make sense for me to pay someone because like the item they'd have to purchase is already gonna be expensive. And by the time I pay them for their time, then that is even more expensive. And then after that point, I'm not making money. Okay, so someone asked, what is the best beginner platform? Now, I actually did a Reseller 101 video recently. I definitely would recommend checking that out, and I'll link that down below. So in terms of like starting a reselling business, a lot of people are hoping that I'm gonna do a video about how to set up your Etsy shop from scratch. I'm probably never gonna film that video. The reason being is that is a well-documented experience. There are so many YouTube videos if you Google like how to set up an Etsy shop from beginning to end. That is something that is readily available and done by many, many people. And so I don't feel like there's a need for me to do it. So now I want to shift gears and talk about marketing. So this is a topic, of course, that's near and dear to my heart as a marketing professional. So I have a lot of people ask me, do they need to be a YouTuber or a content creator in order to be successful because they see how much me being a content creator has contributed to the growth of my business. And so do you need to be a star on social media and have a YouTube channel? You don't have to. I know a lot of resellers who basically have no presence on social media, or if they do, they're doing really nothing consistently with it. And they're doing just fine. It works for them. You know, they're selling at a rate that they're comfortable with and they're growing at a rate that they're comfortable with. And so they don't feel the need to necessarily do any other marketing. But I will say there is no business that is a set it and forget it. You have to market your business in some way, especially if you want to grow it to be something where it could actually pay the bills or replace like a full-time job. Content creation is really the best way of marketing your business in this day and age. You know, before it was ads and direct mail and commercials and stuff. I mean, all that stuff like absolutely is not recommended anymore. Content creation is the way people are marketing their business. And so getting comfortable with it and doing it consistently definitely is going to be fruitful for you. When I started my YouTube channel, even before I had a decent amount of subscribers and views, I was selling stuff because I was doing haul videos. I was showing people what I had purchased. I made sure I listed it before it went live. And as people watched it, they got excited about what I showed them and they purchased. Now that I'm doing obviously more YouTube videos, I have a bigger following, my sell-through rate is a lot higher. I can show a haul video and then a large percentage, if not all the stuff, may sell right after that video goes live. And so that's kind of the power of content, because you're showing things in use, you're showing the excitement behind it, and then that's contagious, then people want to buy it. So do you need to be a content creator? No. And then for those that are not doing any sort of content creation, they're very good at other things. They're good at merchandising. They have the most phenomenal like product mix in their booths. They're well connected in the community and have people that have been buying from them that are maybe interior designers or collectors. And so they're doing other things. They're not just doing nothing. They have other things that they're doing and they're very good at. That's not content creation, that's contributing to the success of their business. Okay, so now we're gonna shift gears to the personal questions. So some of these are really fun. First one is, what is my favorite thrift find of all time? So I can't choose one thing. I mean, I'm not sure that's not surprising. I love everything. I love everything. I wanna keep everything, as you guys know. So I thought I would just share some of the pieces that I would probably save in a fire if I had time. One is this beautiful piece of art, which, given that it's my favorite, you think I'd hang it somewhere, but no, it's been living next to my art pile, which I know that's just how it goes. But this piece, I fell in love with my friend Taylor from Portland Revive. She actually found this for me and she's like, you need to buy this. This looks like you. And she's absolutely right, because I fell in love with those lemons. And it's just a sturdy, heavy, old piece. This is definitely save in the fire type of piece. I think art probably makes up most of my save in a fire pieces, because I feel like so many decorative items, especially stuff that's manufactured, you know, usually you can find it out there in the world again, but art is typically one of a kind. So this piece I got in Belgium and I put it up for sale and then quickly took it down because I just couldn't do it. Like the thought of it selling made me sick. So I was like, okay, you need to keep that one. You are allowed to keep art that you source for others when you realize you like it. So this piece is definitely also on my list of things to save. And then one of my very favorite things that I own is this needlepoint. and it's an adaptation of a famous painting, and it is just so good, so good. When I saw it at a market in London, that's where I bought this, it literally took my breath away. You guys know I love needlepoint, and the frame is so good. And then these two together, I mean, hello, they look so good together. And then the other two pieces of art that would be hard for me to have burn in a fire is this piece right here behind me. It's just one of those pieces. Every time I think about redoing this gallery wall, which I actually need to do soon for a special project coming up, the thought of not having this behind me is just, it's just such an amazing, bright, perfect piece, and it's just the embodiment of sunshine and happiness that I love, and want to convey to you guys that this is a piece that I just, one of my favorites. And then this one, I don't know if you've ever seen, but this is done by that same artist, and you can kind of see the similarities. This piece, again, is just in storage, but it's a piece that I absolutely adore too. Love it. So those are probably the pieces that I would have on my favorites of all time, well, at least for now. And then some of the other things that that bring me a lot of joy looking at this, I got this past December, and it is just this brass elephant. And the fact that it's just like very abstract and blocky, I adore it. So one of my very favorite designers is Jonathan Adler. I love everything that he does. He's a mid-century focused designer, and this is very Jonathan Adler to me. And so I think that's why I fell in love with it. And every time I look at it on my shelves in my bedroom, it brings me so much joy. I could literally stare at it, which I know seems weird, but that's like a sign you love it if you just like could stare at it lovingly forever. I just adore this thing. And then speaking of brass, I got this necklace years ago. I actually had it up for sale, and I'm so glad it never sold because I love it. Anytime I wear it, people lose their minds over it. And I think it's just a cheap piece of costume jewelry. I think she's like a goddess of some kind. I have no idea what her background is. I have done some like Google lensing to try to find it. Have never been able to find it. I just love this. And so this is like one of those forever like silly costume jewelry pieces that I just can't live without. It's just that hero piece that when I'm like putting on a cute outfit and I'm just like, oh, what do I need to like elevate it? This necklace always comes in as the hero. And the last piece that's a favorite of mine that I think could almost be my ultimate favorite, although like I said, I can't really choose, is my needlepoint stool in my studio space, the one that's actually like right here in front of me. I'm gonna show some footage on the screen. I adore this so much. When I saw it, it took my breath away. I loved it. You should watch that video. I actually almost didn't bring it home because I apparently had a stroke in the moment and was just like, oh, should I spend $60 on the most amazing needlepoint stool I've ever seen in my life? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what? I look back at that, me debating, and I'm like, you lost your mind in that moment. I probably was just so like, I was struck dumb, I guess, when I saw it. So it came home with me, and it is a beauty. The artistry is just, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how you can needlepoint something and then upholster a stool and have it turn out. That's beyond me. So that almost might be my number one most favorite piece. It is so good. A lot of questions about if I regret things that I have sold. Like, is there anything I regret? And yes, I regret it all the time. And it's probably no surprise because I want to keep everything that I pick up. But I am in the business of selling things, and in order to be able to continue this business, I have to continue to sell stuff that I find. I try to avoid regret by not looking and reminding myself what I sold, because when I go back and look at the solds, I'm like, oh man, like why did I sell that? And I did this recently where I was looking back at all the stuff that I had sourced in Belgium and Amsterdam. I was like, ooh, there are a few pieces in there that I'm like, you should have kept that for yourself. Like, when are you ever gonna find that again? So yeah, do I have regrets? All the time. All the time. But that's just the nature of the business. And I will say, the more you sell and the more amazing things you find, the more you are kind of okay with certain things going, because you're like confident you might be able to find it again. It's kind of the stuff that's very special, especially the stuff that I source overseas, because we just don't get that stuff here. Like, to find a replacement would be like very hard, if not impossible. But the stuff that that I find all the time. I'm just like, you know what? I can find this again if I really, want it back. But yeah, I do have regrets all the time. And that's just kind of part of the business. And speaking of overseas, people have asked, where's my favorite place to travel to, like independent of thrifting? And my very favorite country to visit is Italy. I have been there many times. I actually got married in Italy, and we will talk about that in a second because you guys want to know how I met my husband and that story, which I thought was really cute, and so I'll share that in a second. But yeah, Italy is my very favorite place to visit. Now a close second is the UK, just because that's where my husband's from. I have spent so much time there, and I love the UK as well. So I would say they're pretty close. They're pretty close in terms of my mind and where I want to go visit. But yeah, Italy is definitely one of the places that have stolen my heart. Okay, so I filled up my camera storage and the battery died. So we have to film the rest of this on my phone. So anyways, how I met my husband. So my husband is from the UK, and a lot of people want to know, how did you meet someone and marry someone from the UK? So my very first job out of college, I worked for a PR firm in Michigan, and then my husband was interning at one of our clients during the summer. And so we met at social events, and my very first impression of him was that his shirt was unbuttoned way too low. And it made me laugh because as an American, we always think of Europeans as having their shirts buttoned too low. So that was my very first impression, was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. And his accent is so nice, but he's got to button his shirt a little bit more. And I also just fell in love with how like worldly he was, because he's very well traveled and he's very sophisticated and he has amazing manners, and he's just always very interested in me. And most importantly, he thought I was funny. Finding me funny was a very important criteria for my husband, just because I have a lot of personality, as you guys know. So we dated long distance. He was in the UK and I was in the States for about 4 years. And then we got married in Italy, so in Positano on the Amalfi Coast. Italy, already established, one of my very favorite places. And considering his side was in Europe and my side was in the States, we decided to have a destination wedding somewhere that we both really liked. And so we chose Positano. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful place to get married. I'll put some pictures on the screen. It was a magical and very small gathering. And then we did have like receptions for people that weren't able to come with us to Italy and the UK and in the US. I planned 3 wedding events when we got married, basically like the actual wedding in Italy and then the 2 receptions, all on my own, no planner, just because I have been an event planner professionally. I did that at that first job where we met, and then I continued that on at my second job. And that, oh my God, I think I have PTSD from all the stress from planning 3 international events that happened in the same year. It was crazy, but it was a lot of fun, and that's the only way we could really do it to accommodate all of our family. Yeah, that is the story of how I met my British husband. Okay, so final question about my beauty routine, which cracks me up because I don't think I'm an expert at all or someone who even knows anything about it compared to, the actual beauty influencers. It's never been like a passion of mine. It's just been something I do to try to make sure I look alive, especially on camera. So all the products I use are very natural and clean. That's because I have highly sensitive skin, so I can't just use what other people use. I'll break out in a rash. And then also I hate fragrance, as you guys know. So I have to use stuff that is generally fragrance free, or if it does have a fragrance, it has to be naturally derived from the actual thing it's made from. So my hero product right now is this. It's the Rose Geranium Facial Tonic Hydrosol by Evan Healy. I just spray it on a clean face in the morning and night. This has helped my hormonal acne a ton because I was getting zits around here, which is usually attributed to hormones. And since I've been using this, I have not gotten as many. And so it's been amazing. So I've been using this for a few months. Highly recommend it, especially if you're prone to breakouts, but it's very refreshing. Like all their hydrosols are refreshing. And then I also use this line. It's called Derma E, and it just feels really good on the skin. It's really thick. And I feel like it looks good. Like my face just looks like dewy and happy with it. It's very hydrating. And so I use this and 2 different like face washes that they have in this line. So you can get these at Whole Foods. I think you definitely can get them online too. I'll try to link them in my Amazon storefront for you guys. But these are kind of the things I'm using right now that are actually working, which is awesome, especially for someone who has hated their skin their entire existence because it's always been very problematic. I'm in a good place right now, so I definitely can recommend those products, especially if you're suffering from acne like I always have. And then in terms of makeup, I use Ilia, which is another type of like more natural makeup line. You can get it at Sephora, so I've been using that and I like that. I think they actually have skincare in their products as well. And so I think maybe that also could be contributing to my face looking better now. But yeah, I just use their all over foundation, and then I keep, you know, my skin care or my makeup routine really, really easy just because I do not have the patience for contouring or anything elaborate. And so I basically put on the foundation, I put on blush, I do a little bit of not liner. I line it though, but I line it with eyeshadow. And I also fill in my brows. I feel like filling in my brows, like, because these are areas here a little bit more bald, that has been a game changer, I feel like, in my appearance. For me, looking like put together, like all put together, is filling in my brows, and then a mascara. So, and then lipstick. So I use Rebellious Rose. It's by Estee Lauder, which is a brand that I used so long ago, and they were the ones who always would do my makeup before like homecoming and prom. Anyways, I've been using this lipstick, like reddish lipstick color, for a long time, Rebellious Rose. If you were to go out and buy it, you just want to make sure that you do their cream lipstick, because they have like 2 levels of lipstick, and the cheaper one feels like crap on your lips. This is a lot more luxurious on your lips, goes on better, feels better. The cheaper one, terrible. Do not do that. And so they offer this color in both of the levels. So go for the more expensive one, is definitely a lot better. And then in terms of hair, so I do color my hair. I use Madison Reed, which is like a salon grade box product that you can order online. And actually my husband dyes my hair for me. So thank you. I actually need to do it again because the grays are coming in again. So my natural color is very close to my, it's like, in case you guys want to see it, my natural color is just a little bit darker and a little less red than the color that I use for my hair. I definitely have to dye my hair now because I have a lot of gray now because I'm in my 40s, and it's just going to keep coming. And then in terms of product I use, I'll pop those in my Amazon storefront too. I only use shampoo and conditioner. I do not use any styling product because it makes my hair like staticky. Don't know why. It does. I find that the natural products that I use make my hair less oily, and so I don't have to wash as often, which is awesome. And it also cleared up all of like the dandruff, psoriasis. I know this is very TMI that I used to get because I'm a person prone to eczema. Probably no surprise, you guys. And so that help clear that up using natural products really made a difference. It's an apple cider vinegar product, and so it has apple cider vinegar in it, and I think that has really helped my hair. And then in terms of styling it, now it's a little bit flat right now because it's like the end of the day, and I've been recording this for 20 hours, it seems like, at least according to my camera being dead. But the styling product that I use, or rather the tool that I use, is just hot rollers. It's just all hot rollers and good genetics when it comes to hair and bounce and fullness. So yeah, that's how I get bounce. Well, when it looks bouncy right now, I feel like it looks really sad. Anyways, that is it. That is all my beauty stuff for those that are interested. And yeah, those are all the questions that you guys had. Now, if you have more questions now after this Q&A, feel free to pop them down below and I will add them to another Q&A video, assuming you want another one. You may have thought this was too much because it was very long and long-winded. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I promise I will be returning to Thrift With Me and haul videos very soon. Illness just has struck our house for the last few weeks, and anytime it strikes me specifically and I can't talk, I can't film, which is real fun as a YouTuber. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Take care.